Have you ever looked around your class and seen that one kid? The one who never seems to study, who's always laughing and joking, yet somehow, when the exams roll around, they absolutely ace it. And then there's you. You grind day and night, memorizing formulas until you're seeing them in your dreams, chugging coffee like water, and your grades are still mediocre. It's the kind of feeling that makes you want to just quit and go sell bubble tea. But wait, what if I told you those lazy friends aren't lucky and they're definitely not cheating? They just know how to learn differently than you. While you're trying to force feed every single word into your brain, they're finding ways to avoid force feeding and still remember everything. Sounds impossible, right? But that's life. Sometimes, the laziest people are actually the smartest. Not because their brains are better, but because they hate doing extra work. They despise wasting time on things that don't matter. While you're straining yourself to study, they're looking for the shortcut across the river. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why the lazy ones always get the high scores. More importantly, I'll show you how you can do the same. No more all-nighters, no more memorizing useless facts. Just understanding how your brain actually works and using it like the lazy geniuses do. Let's get started. Secret 1. They upgrade their brains. Rami, if you think studying means studying longer and harder, I'm sorry to tell you, you're playing the game wrong. The lazy students don't study more than you. They just use their brains more efficiently. It sounds simple, but this is the difference between someone who studies for hours and forgets, and someone who studies for 15 minutes and remembers. They use a technique called dual and back training. Imagine your brain is like an old, laggy laptop. You open one program and the whole system freezes. The lazy students don't buy a new computer. They upgrade their brain's RAM. Dual and back is a simple game, taking only 15 to 20 minutes a day. But it trains your working memory. That's the part of your brain responsible for holding and processing information right now. For example, when you read a paragraph and try to connect 3 different concepts, your brain is working just like a browser with 3 tabs open. If your RAM is weak, you get overwhelmed. If your RAM is strong, you see the connections instantly. Dual and back is the gym workout for that brain RAM. Scientists have found that regular training improves focus and processing speed. The smart lazy students know this. Instead of studying like a bull, they spend a little time training their brain to learn faster. You don't need 10 hours if you can learn twice as much in 3. That's why they cross the finish line first, not because they're better, but because they invested in the tool, their brain, not just the time. Secret 2. They use screenshot memory. If you've ever tried to memorize a formula by reading it over and over, you're basically torturing your brain. The human brain wasn't designed to remember text. It was designed to remember images. That's why you forget this morning's lesson, but can still perfectly picture the face of your middle school crush now. Imagine you're staring at a long, complex formula. Normally, you'd copy it, read it, and forget it in 3 days. The smart lazy student does something different. They take a mental snapshot of it. Not with their phone, but with their memory camera. They will stare intently at the formula or diagram for 30 seconds. Then they close their eyes and try to recreate that image in their mind. Where was the text? Where was the equal sign? If they forget, they open their eyes, look again, and repeat. They do this until the picture in their head is as clear as an iPhone 16 Pro Max photo. I call this screenshot memory. It sounds funny, but it's incredibly effective because it's based on the picture superiority effect, psychological concept proving the brain remembers images far better than words. When you force yourself to reconstruct that image, your brain is forced to work harder, like it's rendering an HD photo internally. That effort is what burns the information into your long-term memory. They don't waste time rewriting 10 pages of notes because they memorize with their eyes, not their hands. In the exam, instead of trying to recall words, they just open their mental photo library and the image of the formula or diagram appears. Crystal clear. Secret 3. They scavenge from other brains. Ever notice how some people just seem smarter? It's not because they read more. It's because they know how to mine for gold in other people. This technique is called lecture scavenging. Simply put, they learn from those who are better instead of studying like a lone wolf. They quietly find the people who've already figured it out. Who has the fastest solution? Who has the cleanest notes? Then they subtly absorb that brain power by asking for slides, asking for a quick explanation, or just listening to that person teach it. It might sound like piggybacking, but it's a brilliant strategy. You are learning from someone else's curated experience, insights that might have taken you a week to discover on your own. The problem is, many people are too proud to learn from others. They think self-study is the only noble path. But truly smart people know how to leverage systems. They learn from mentors, teammates, and communities, because they understand that knowledge spreads faster in a network. A study group is a system. Each person understands one piece and shares it with the others. One person remembers the formula, another understands the concept, a third knows the application. The whole group becomes stronger. So, if you want to learn effectively, stop studying alone in the dark. Step out, connect, ask, listen, and scavenge the treasure from other brains. Sometimes, one sentence from someone else can spark the idea you've been stuck on all week. Secret 4. They practice selective ignorance. Here's a hard truth. You cannot know everything. Your brain is not a hard drive. If you try to cram every piece of information into it, you will crash. The best learners understand this. They don't try to know everything. They only choose what's important. The technique is called selective ignorance. They know how to ignore the unnecessary so their brain has space for what truly matters. Imagine you're watching a 10-minute video on how to memorize faster. 7 minutes are fluff about the history of the brain. 2 minutes are an ad, and only 1 minute is the actual tip. The smart learner skips directly to minute 9. Not because they're lazy, but because they know exactly what they need. Selective ignorance doesn't mean being uninformed. It means knowing how to filter the noise. We are drowning in information, but 99% of what you see every day won't help you move forward. Smart people don't chase every shiny object. It's like learning English. Instead of trying to memorize 10,000 rare words that even native speakers don't use, you just need to master the 3,000 most common ones to speak fluently. The funny thing is, learning less but learning the right things helps you remember longer and understand deeper. Every minute you don't waste on junk is a minute you invest in the core. Selective ignorance is a survival skill in an age of info overload. It teaches you that to be smart, sometimes you don't need to learn more. You need to learn less. Secret 5. They use passive absorption. Have you ever been lying in bed, listening to a podcast, not really paying attention, and yet, later on, you vaguely remember what they said? That is passive absorption, learning unconsciously, letting your brain soak up information without you officially sitting down to study. It sounds magical, but science shows the brain doesn't only learn when you're focused. It's still absorbing information even when you're busy with other things. As long as that information appears often enough. Think of your brain as a sponge. Whether you want it to or not, it's going to absorb whatever it's near. The only question is, where are you placing your sponge? If you leave it in a puddle of TikTok, it will absorb drama and memes. If you leave it near an English podcast or an audiobook, it will absorb knowledge. Smart learners know this. They turn all their dead time into absorption opportunities. Washing dishes, podcast on, jogging, audiobook on. The beauty is, they don't force themselves to memorize. They just listen for fun, letting their brain work in the background. Like downloading a game while you browse the web. After a few weeks, those things you just listened to will suddenly pop into your head right when you need them, making you think, wait, how did I know that? Passive absorption doesn't replace active study, but it supercharges it. When you finally sit down to actively learn, your brain already has a foundation from all that passive listening. You'll understand faster and connect ideas easier. So next time you're tired or lazy, just turn something useful on and let it play. No notes, no pressure. Just let your brain do its job. It's quietly effective. Secret 6. They watch the trailer before the movie ever starts. A TV show, and the first episode is just a blur of characters and confusing plots. Learning is exactly the same. If you jump straight into a new lesson without any context, your brain spends the first 10 minutes just trying to figure out where it is. Smart learners don't let this happen. Before class, they warm up their brain by quickly skimming the upcoming lesson. They don't need to learn it deeply. They just need to see the trailer before the movie. This is the pre-class preview. They aren't reading to understand. They are reading to build a mental framework. It's like building the frame of a house. When the teacher starts laying the bricks, the information, you already know where each one goes. For example, if tomorrow's lesson is on redox reactions, just opening the book and seeing the headings and main concepts creates temporary hooks in your brain. When you get to class and hear the lecture, the new information sticks to those hooks instead of sliding off. What's fascinating is that the brain loves familiarity. When you hear a term you've seen before, it activates your deep memory centers more strongly. Your brain says, aha, I know this. and automatically pays closer attention. That 5 to 10 minute preview warms up your brain like an athlete before a race. When class starts, you're not hearing it for the first time. You're reinforcing what you've already seen. Your comprehension speed doubles, your retention triples, and learning feels easy. Secret 7. They learn in real time while everyone else is daydreaming. For most students, class time is when their brain goes on vacation. The teacher is lecturing, but your mind is deciding what to have for dinner while you're daydreaming. The smart, lazy learners are finishing their studying right there in the classroom. They don't wait to relearn it at home. They process it all as the teacher is speaking. This is a brilliant strategy. Why? Because when you're hearing a lecture, your brain is in its peak absorption state. The new information has context, examples, and emotion. If you wait a few hours or days to review, your brain has to reload everything from scratch, which takes massive energy. The smart, lazy person seizes the moment. They ask questions immediately when they're confused. The second the teacher says a complex concept, their hand is up. Excuse me, what does that mean? It seems small, but in that moment of getting an instant explanation, your brain locks the information down. It becomes an interactive experience, not just meaningless words in a notebook. They also pay attention to what the teacher emphasizes, repeats, or pauses on. That's the secret hint for the exam. If you just sit there like a statue, passively taking notes, those notes will look like ancient Latin by the time you get home. You'll have to struggle all over again, confused by your own handwriting. Smart learning isn't about more time. It's about using the peak moment when knowledge is flying from the teacher's mouth into your head. If you catch it then, you'll realize you don't need to study more. You just need to study at the right time. Conclusion: stop working harder, start working smarter. It turns out, those lazy students with high grades aren't lucky, and they aren't geniuses. They just understand the system. While you are being crushed by it, you think you're diligent. But you're just learning the wrong way. You're plowing the field with all your might, but you forgot to turn the plow on. The smart, lazy ones don't need to study a lot because they study the right things, at the right time, in the right way. So, the next time you see someone acing exams while seemingly playing games, don't get angry. They aren't lazier than you. They are just more optimized than you, if you still believe that more hours equals better grades. I'm sorry, but you are playing by the wrong rules. The world doesn't reward the person who works the hardest. It rewards the person who plays the smartest. And believe me, being lazy in the right way, that is the ultimate survival skill in this era. If you want to escape the cycle of study and forget, don't force yourself to sit at the desk longer. Force yourself to think differently. Learn differently. Because being smart isn't about knowing more. It's about knowing what matters.